Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today. My name is Lauren with the Coffee Cake Quilt Company, and today I have the top 12, not 10, 12 quilting tools that I like to use every day. Before I get started, I just want to mention that a lot of these are used on my long arm, mostly because that's where I do my quilting these days, but I used to use a domestic machine, and these are also really great for domestic quilting. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and go through the tools that are great for both domestic and long arm quilting, and then I'll go through the tools at the end that are best for mostly just long arm quilting. All right, let's get started. First and foremost, people might not really think of this as a tool, but I like to make sure that safety is top priority. So make sure that you have a clip or a hair tie handy, especially if you have long hair like me. You certainly don't want your hair caught in this mechanism or even at your standard sit down machine. So safety priority first, clip or a hair tie. Once safety is taken care of, I like to clean my machine. I've already gone over the cleaning procedures for my long arm, but I also do the same for my domestic. So I like to have these microfiber towels to clean all of the lint and the hair off of my machine, everything that settles. And I also like to have these makeup brushes. As you can see, there's 3 different sizes here. I use this one for the most intricate pieces of the bobbin area on my machine, on both my domestic and my long arm. Same for this is mostly for the bobbin area as well. And then usually I'll use this one for larger areas like the plate on my domestic machine or my long arm, instead of using a large fiber towel like this, because this can get caught under your foot and things like that. Next, I think it's really important to have ergonomic seam rippers on hand. You do, at least in long arm quilting, you do make mistakes. Sometimes the bobbin tension isn't right and you do have to seam rip your stitches. So it's really important if you're standing there. Honestly, sometimes it has taken me hours. Sometimes I break it up into 2 days because you're just standing there on top of your machine. Sometimes you have to get under your machine because it's easier to rip stitches, especially if you have some eyelashing on the back. It's just easier to get down and under there and take them out with a seam ripper that way. But yes, ergonomic seam rippers are a must if you're quilting, and this goes for domestic machine quilting as well. Next, for snipping threads, I would recommend this curved scissors tool. This one is by Tula Pink. This just ensures that you don't snag your quilt when you're snipping threads. This is a must for me. I wouldn't go anywhere without this. And when you're snipping threads, sometimes you have to bury those threads, so I would recommend these. These are self-threading needles. They look a little messy right now because I use them very heavily for the last couple years now. And I'll go ahead and demonstrate these. Let's see, there's a guide on the back here. So it shows you basically just push the thread through the top, and the needle is threaded. And it's actually really useful because for quilting, you know, when you're bringing up your bottom thread and then you have your top thread as well, you have 2 threads that you need to pull through, and it's just so much easier to literally just snap them right through, and then they're threaded through the eye of the needle there. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate that and put that in as well. So this is also a must for me, especially when you're switching out colors of thread, when your bobbins run out and you need to start a new bobbin and you want kind of a continuous look to your quilting, which is very important to me. Trying to think what else. I think that's mostly when I use them, and then they're really good for show quilting because you really don't want anything to be showing when you've got a show quilt they're gonna enter. I just want to demonstrate these self-threading needles for you and how I use them in my quilting. So for instance, let's just say that my bobbin ran out, or I've ended my stitching, my quilting. What I like to do is I like to get my seam ripper handy here, and I'm just going to show you, demonstrate what I do. I go ahead and I tug on that upper thread here, and it creates a loop, which is your bottom thread. I like to pull that up so that they're both on the same plane. And then personally, what I like to do, because I like things extra secure, is I like to give it 2 knots. So I do a double knot like this. Oops. Okay. I like to make sure that that's secure. And then what I like to do next is I take my self-threading needle. I'll go ahead and take this one. It really doesn't matter. This one just has a slightly larger head size, but they're all pretty much the same. And you just simply take that, hopefully maybe you can see it has kind of a V shape there. You go ahead and you just pop those 2 threads right like that. And so now my needle is threaded. I can move it back and forth on the thread, and I'll go ahead and go in between my quilt sandwich. So as you can see, I'm not putting the needle through the back of my quilt sandwich. It's actually getting sandwiched in between where the batting is. And so I like to run that through probably about an inch because I like to have it secured pretty well. I go ahead and I pull it through. The needle comes right off. And then I go ahead, and I don't have them handy, but if I had those curved snips that I talked about earlier, or that I will be talking about, maybe I just gave away something, I like to go ahead and snip that. Now, if you have those curved snips, you're gonna cut it a little bit closer, and you're not gonna have that little bit of thread hanging out. And then what I like to do is I like to switch out my bobbin and carry on about 1 inch back from where I buried those threads, and I'll go ahead and keep stitching. And this creates a nice continuous line of stitching. You as the piecer, I guess, the person getting your quilt back, you probably won't even be able to tell where the long arm started and stopped your stitching, hopefully, if they did a good job. And that's kind of my goal. So there you go. Make sure that you get yourself some of these. Once again, they are clover, and they're the self-threading needles. And these are on Amazon. I'll go ahead and link these in the description box below. Okay, and kind of the final thing for me as far as domestic and long arm quilting goes would be a lint roller. You can either get this reusable lint roller that I just got, information sticky roller right here, or there's that. Or you can also just get one like this off of Amazon, and it comes with refills, and you just put, oh no! And you just put the refills right on there. It came with 2 or 3, I think. So yes, lint roller, whether it's a throwaway like this one or a reusable like this one. And this just picks up all the lint. It picks up loose threads, sometimes hairs if there's pet hair around. So it's just really good to have on hand. Okay, now we get into mostly what I use for my long arm. So I wanna go ahead and when I load up my quilt, sometimes I've done a video on this. I don't have it posted, but I've done a video where I have a full EPP quilt, English paper piece quilt. It's very delicate. The seams, you definitely don't want to stretch or tear the seams. And so I'll actually float my quilt top, and this is what I use, these quilt clips. They're upside down, but this is by the Grace Company. And it comes in a pack of 4, and I really don't remember what the pricing is, but I'll go ahead and put it on the screen if I can. But these quilt clips are great for floating your quilt tops. It's really great for baby quilts because I don't like to pin my baby quilts to the bottom leader. They're just not really long enough. It doesn't make sense for me. But yeah, these are really great when you don't want to pin to the bottom leader, and also when you have some paper pieced or really delicate quilting that you just want to make sure you take extra good care of. Okay, next is this TOA gauge, and this is a must for a long arm quilter. So my Bernina, it likes to have the bobbin set at 220. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and adjust the top tension. I usually start it out at 4, and then I kind of see if there's any pulling of the bobbin to the top. And then if there is, I'll go ahead and adjust my top tension down, and vice versa. I'll look underneath, and that'll get us to our next tool. I'll look underneath and see if my top thread is being pulled to the back, which would create the eyelashing. So this is absolutely a must for a long arm quilter. Speaking of the eyelashing on the back and various things that can go wrong with the back of your quilt, I have these 2 things that are extremely handy. So I have this LED flashlight. If you're flexible and can get down under the quilt, all you really have to do is just shine this LED flashlight, and you can see any of the mistakes that you made so that you can go ahead and correct them. If you're not super flexible and you were, for say, for instance, pregnant like I just was, or maybe you have, bad knees or bad hips or whatever, you just can't get underneath the quilt very easily, or the long arm very easily, I should say. They also sell these on Amazon, and I can go ahead and link it below, and I'm sure you can see like some of my room in the reflection here, but I can go ahead and link this below. It's really handy to have, and I don't want to blind you, but it does also have LED lights up here, and like I said, it is a flashlight, and then it also has the extension. It also folds, so it's just really handy to have if you need to get down there and see the back of your quilt. Last but not least, I have this tape measure. This one is Lori Holt. I like pretty tape measures. This is a must for me as well, because what happens is when you go ahead and load your quilt, even though you have the dimensions, maybe you measured on the floor or, you know, on the cutting table, whatever. Even if you have your dimensions, I like to just double check with this tape measure. So I'll go ahead, I'll load up my quilt, I'll take the measurement, and then I'll go ahead and put the dimensions in the software in the Q-matic here on my Bernina. So yeah, this is really handy. I've gone through a couple of these now. My kids like to come down and play with them and break the springs. So yeah, this is a must. And I know that they sell larger ones, or longer ones, I should say. This one's 60 inches. But like I said, it's Lori Holt and I like how pretty it is. So the larger ones typically aren't fancy. Finally, we have this atomizing spray bottle here. It just has like a super fine mist. You can barely even see it when I did that. And this is really important as well. If you have sometimes piecing, when people piece their quilt tops, they tug or pull or, you know, whatever they do when they're sewing, and it creates some fullness or some wrinkling or things like that. Just a spritz of water. You don't need, you know, a steamer. You don't need starch or anything fancy like that, really, in my experience, at least of 3 years of long arm quilting. Just a little spritz of water will be enough to kind of flatten that out so that you can quilt over it. It does shrink it a little bit, but that person's going to be washing their quilt eventually anyway, and the rest will shrink as well. But it just helps create a really smooth finish to the quilt, so you don't end up with creases or puckers or tucks or anything like that. So this is my final tool. Please let me know, do you use all of these? Is there something that you swear by that I haven't listed out here in this video? Please let me know down below what your favorite tools are. And I appreciate you all. Please like and subscribe if you want to keep seeing these videos. Thank you so much. Have a great day.